going live. All right, I am live. Man, it feels like forever since I've done one of these, so I'm super excited to be back in action. If you're watching this right now, leave a comment down below. Let me know you're watching. Say hello. Leave me a nice message. We're going to be doing an AMA. I think it's been about like a year since I've done one of these, and I wanted to kick it up and start doing them again more regularly because, you know, everyone has questions, and sometimes I have answers, and I'd love to help out whenever possible. So, yeah, again, if you're watching right now, come say a comment down below and let me know. But, yeah, let's I'm going to spam this out to a couple different people and see, first starting with my team and say, come hang out with me doing a live AMA. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Oh, dang. Look at that. I didn't even post a message and Isaac's already here. Isaac, good to see you. Isaac, have I seen you yet today? We missed you on the social today. We played Code Names. Our team won, obviously. But we missed you. I needed Isaac to compete against as well. Oh, Mark, thank you so much for coming, even in the subway, hanging out as well. But Mark, yeah, send me your questions you have about hybrid and in-person events. As everything is changing and evolving and growing now in the events industry, I'm sure everybody has lots of questions. I'd love to hear from you all while we get everything started and ask questions and everything like that. I got my whiteboard ready to explain some complex stuff as well. But yeah. That's right. You guys were doing the event in Salt Lake City. So I can't wait to hear the stories. I saw the pictures, our crew in the scooters as well, which is pretty awesome. I know you're super excited about in-person and hybrid events coming back as well. So, but I'll get you next time for Code Names for sure. So, yes, comment down below. Let me know if you're watching right now. Say hello so I can give you a shout out in the live stream as well. I'm basically here answering questions about hybrid events. So, yeah, let's start by putting a banner up and saying hello. All right, cool question. Great question so far. Coming on in. Gil, thank you so much for saying cool setup. Thank you. This is most people, number one question I get asked about this is this my studio or is this my office or what is this? Most people don't know this is my second bedroom of where I live, and it's my home office. So we've been remote for 7 years, something like that. I actually should count how long we've been remote. And yeah, my second bedroom has always been my office, and this is where we shoot Whiteboard Wednesday. If you've ever heard of Whiteboard Wednesday, our video series, which I can drop a link to in the chat, and also where do a lot of webinars. Where I also do all my work, a lot of meetings. Other than when I'm on my laptop, sometimes occasionally I go in the kitchen for internal meetings as well when I need a break from the office. But yeah, this is the setup, and happy to answer any questions at all about setup and what it's all looking like. Oh, thank you so much for the like. Yeah, make sure to give this a like or share, everything like that as well. Ellis, you said 6. I don't know what the 6 is a reference to. Obviously, I'm a little ahead of you all, so on here as well. Almost 7. Oh, yeah. Years we've been remote. Thank you, Ellis. You are probably correct. I can't keep track anymore. All right. So, yeah. Questions, hellos. I'm going to give you shout outs in the chat. So please post down below. But let's start off with the first question coming in from Mark asking how do you determine the best platform? So now going into hybrid events and in-person events, platforms are totally different than we've ever had before when it comes to virtual events, virtual and digital events. You can kind of almost take a little bit of the framework you've had for virtual and digital events and tack it on to what you've also learned from in-person events, but there's more new stuff you have to be aware of. So let's start at a high level, how you determine this stuff. So first of all, I'm a big fan of using this amazing tool on the internet called Google. That's very bright. Let me dim that down just so you guys get a little bit more definition in my hair and I don't fall into the background. But when it comes to you finding the best platforms, Google is a great tool for this sort of stuff. I'm a big fan of searching best, whatever it is. So for example, I was trying to buy a new mop. My mop finally broke over years and years and years, and I wanted to find out what was the best thing so I could have it, last forever. I'm a kind of guy who's like, I'm going to invest once in something and cry once, buy once sort of situation. So what I do is Google best of. So I'll search best mop, and then I'll take the first page of Google. It's like 10 results. Occasionally there's an ad in there, or maybe there's a low quality web, so I'll skip that one. And I'll take and see, like, is there a common product that's being recommended over and over and over again as well? So when it comes to software tools, whether it's a virtual event platform or your productivity software, your best CRM, whatever it is, Google best, whatever it is, take the first 10 results, bring them all up in separate tabs. Is there one tool that's consistently in the, number one, number two, number three on here that's consistently coming up? The one thing you want to be aware of is that this keyword best, whatever it is often written also by the company that they're trying to rank for the tool. So for example, if you search like best CRM, I think HubSpot's like got a blog post written out that talks about basically the best CRM and all these things. And of course, they're going to put theirs at the top. But what you'll notice though is that other lists, other brands will also call HubSpot the best CRM as well. So I look for those sort of things. So I start with that. That gives me awareness of tools and just knowing that tool exists. It doesn't mean it is the best. Don't just decide to go sign the contract right then and there. The next thing I do is I look at things like, for example, G2.com. If you haven't heard of G2.com, you can actually go there. They have a whole services page. So even companies like Endless that are service providers, not technology companies, you can go and look at their reviews. You can see what people are thinking, and they're verified LinkedIn reviews from people, not just like an anonymous, Yelp.com review, which is pretty cool. So I look at that sort of stuff. And then the next thing I look at too is that I'm going to have conversations with the team, because that gets you to the point where you're hearing about what's the best tool, it's got the best features. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's about the team that's going to execute. And if it comes to your virtual hybrid in-person technology that you're utilizing, you have to remember that the tool is only good as the team that's going to execute it. What we've noticed over the last year is that there's been an explosion of event technology needs, and people realize they need them. But a lot of these technology companies weren't ready to scale up their customer service. So that's where companies like Endless have really come in, is that we've kind of filled that gap in between to be able to provide service and support and implementation of these tools without having to lean on spending thousands of dollars for someone else to implement it on there. So that's one important thing, is look at the team. Is this person going to work for you? Are they going to make these things happen? If you still don't know what the best platform is, or this was really overwhelming and you don't have time to Google things, here's the easy answer, and the self-fulfilling answer I'll give is that just give Endless a shout. We're the ones who have done pouring hours and hours of research of this stuff and really found what's best to be able to do it. So that's one time, hopefully the one time I have to self-plug on there, but that's one of the first starts. So when it comes to that kind of process where you're looking in the tools, but let's start talking about hybrid and in-person tools specifically and what you have to look for. So first tip that I'm giving every single person when it comes to choosing your platforms and technology, the platform that you use for your in-person audience needs to be the exact same platform that you use for your virtual audience. A hybrid event is this idea of giving a same quality experience between an in-person audience and a virtual audience. You don't want to leave someone left behind, making them feel like FOMO or feeling of left out. If you don't know what FOMO is, I think when it comes to virtual attendees, we're going to have the word FOMO written all over our faces with some of these events. But it's important that you create that quality experience, and you can't put them on separate platforms. You can't have an event app that's being used for scheduling and networking things for the in-person audience, and then also use a separate one for virtual audience. That is not a hybrid event. That is just having two separate events that are happening at the same time, separate from each other. So if you totally agree with that sort of thing, give me a hell yeah in the chat. I'd love to hear from you as well. But I think that when it comes to these platforms, they need to be one single app brought together, because what you're going to ultimately want when it comes to this hybrid experience is that you want in-person attendees to meet virtual attendees. You want virtual attendees to meet in-person attendees. And then also obviously in-person meet in-person and virtual meet virtual. But if you decide to leave them separate from each other, it's going to be a really bad time. So that's one of the first tips I gave you. One single platform for everyone to live on. Plus the benefit is if you have one platform, less data entry, all the analytics under one single spot, right? There's a lot of benefits when it comes to this sort of thing versus like having to do two different things at once. Second thing I think when it comes to in-person hybrid platforms is that you need to have a platform that is robust enough that it's going to give you a single analytics platform for both your in-person and virtual attendees. What does that mean necessarily? Again, you don't want a platform that's going to say, oh yeah, this is how many people visited this. Well, let's back up. I think a lot of these virtual event platforms have a lot of in-person catching up to be able to do. They've primarily been designed for virtual. They're really good at analytics as knowing how many people visited virtual booths. But the thing that's been missing is now they have to go in person. So how do you track how many people have been to booths, how many people have been to what sessions, how many people have ultimately bought from those people. You have to then bring in a physical tracking element, which is the Bluetooth Low Energy, the RFID, all that sort of stuff that has been very less common on the in-person side. Well, now that's required because you can't have a ton of great analytics on your virtual attendees and then go to your sponsors and say, I don't have any analytics for my in-person attendees. So be ready to spend a little bit more money on that. But I'm finding a lot of these virtual platforms don't have the element or technology to be able to do RFID tracking, do Bluetooth Lower Energy, that sort of stuff on there as well. So, yeah, and thank you so much, McKenna. Great to see you as well. I'm really glad you're finding this helpful with the hybrid event coming up. So, yeah, tons of tips. Ask your questions down below. All right, so back to Mark's one last tip I'll give when it comes to this platform stuff is that you want to pick something that's super easy to use. How many people remember event apps, circa 2019, far long ago in the years of past, pre-COVID, event apps were, not good. And people were like, oh, well, I guess that's what we have to deal with. It's a poor user experience. But you know what? It's not the main part of our event. Technology is now a central part of your entire event. You got to make it a great experience. And now that they've experienced virtual events and virtual platforms that are easy to use, if you hand them a crappy, slow, clunky, ugly event app, people are not going to be happy. So make sure it's really easy to use and awesome as well. But yeah, also shouts to the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle from our team who's here as well, talking about attendance tracking and lead retrieval. I mean, yeah, even talking about that, that's a physical element that we need to be able to have in part of our platforms and our technologies. Kyle's the man. He's part of our team that literally sources like 2,000 different platforms you guys now have in your database and help pick clients. I was literally just messaging someone on LinkedIn just now. I don't see them in this group, but I wish they were here right now to hear this. But they were asking me, what's the best platform? Which one would you pick? And I go, it's so hard to just tell you one. Our team basically sits down with you and says all the needs, what you have to do, and all these things like that. And then they provide you a perfect solution based on that. But if someone's going to come in here and say, X platform's the best or this platform's the best, that's for their opinion. That's like me telling you have to use HubSpot. I love HubSpot, but Marketo might be better for you. Salesforce might be better for you. Pardot might be better for you. Pardot and Salesforce are kind of similar, but that's just something to think about, is that your needs are totally different. It's like asking somebody, what's the best car? Yeah, Ferrari. Duh. It's the fastest. Let's say Tesla Model S Plaid, right? Fastest production car ever. Oh my gosh. But if I gave you that answer, you might think to yourself, I don't need the fastest car. I need the safest car because I'm traveling with my kids and I need to have, 13 soccer kids in my car, right? It depends on what your needs are, and there's so many variables that go into it. And you want to make sure that someone's giving you the right decision as well. So, Dylan, I literally just got off the phone with Dylan what was that, like half an hour ago or so. Dylan, thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. So happy to have you here as well. And yeah, Mark says, got it. Awesome. I hope that was helpful. Feel free to ask me a follow-up question. I know that I'm speaking really, really fast on here too. So, Jackie, thank you so much for being here. Super excited to see you in Phoenix. I'm guessing you're meeting EduCon. So yeah, I'm going to be at PCMA EduCon in, was that 2 weeks or so? Really excited. It's going to be an amazing opportunity to see a hybrid event in person. Our team's going to be there. We're going to be swarming like crazy, but I'm really, really excited. I've been working with the PCMA team and the behind the scenes, and oh my gosh, I'm just so excited for what you're going to see that's going to be produced and what's going to be coming in here. And I think that you're going to see a really incredible hybrid event being pulled off. PCMA is the OGs of hybrid and digital events. That's why they created the DES, which is so cool. So yeah, it's going to be such an incredible event, Jackie. I'll be excited to see you. And my excited part about this is that we finally get to get hugs going again. You guys remember what hugs were like? I'm just so excited for that as well. So, Jose says, so sometimes you need a truck. Yeah, a truckload of people. I don't know what the context of that is, but I'm probably talking way faster then I can keep up with some people's fingers typing as well. All right. All right, we're getting some great questions coming on in. So I'll ask selfishly one of our internal questions on here as too. So Isaac's asked, what's the best way to drive engagement and excitement for hybrid events to choose to go platformless rather than stream breakouts, keynotes to their webpage or YouTube directly? So this is the kind of the example of you're like, hey, I want to create a hybrid event, but I want to like keep virtual costs as low as possible. I'm going to decide to just do a live stream of an event. This is pretty much what I call like hybrid 1.0. This is what we were doing in 2019 and many years before it, right? The idea was that you're less of a hybrid event, and I think you're more of like an in-person event that allows flies on the wall to see what's kind of going on there as well. It's very basic, right? You're just basically taking a stream and putting a chat next to it and saying, good luck, audience. We hope you love this content so much. It's so good. I would say that for 98% of events, it's not going to be engaging enough, and the content itself is not going to be that great, right? Let's be honest, right? We're not like when we're putting events out there, we're not streaming the Super Bowl. We're not streaming the Oscars where we're giving away one of the most prestigious awards in film, right? People are going to be, kind of feeling left out and feeling a little disengaged. Now, if you have attendees, some attendees will be like, oh my gosh, this content is gold. I have to get this. I have to find out about the future of, contact lenses and their plastic viscosity. My dad's an eye doctor, so I just guess I go to like optometry stuff all the time when I think about this. But I think for a lot of people, their content's not going to be as engaging to be able to do this. And let's be honest, we are all zoomed out, live streamed out, virtualed out. That's why you're seeing in-person events come back in a fury so fast and hard. So because of that, though, you can't deliver an experience where people are going to feel disengaged. Because if they come in here and say it's just a stream, what's the first thing that you do? Probably even just doing it right now. If I haven't called out your name, you probably already done it. How many of you have the video just like minimized in the background and you're just listening right now? You're like checking emails. Let's be honest. You're like texting your friends, finding out what you're going to do for Friday night, right? You're going to feel disengaged and just want to minimize it as well. So what you instead want to do is create that event-like experience. What we've learned with virtual events over this last year, you need to apply that same thing to create an engaging community-like experience 100%. So now if you are only going to do a live stream and there's only going to be the content, right? And this also applies if you're going to do a full-blown virtual event as well, but you got to make sure the content's awesome first. Content is king. It always will be king. Make it awesome. Second thing, as it ties to the content, production value as well, right? There's a reason why you get bored watching a webinar, right? But you are willing to binge watch 10 hours worth of Netflix. No one feels Netflix fatigue, but they do feel Zoom fatigue. Don't make it feel like a Zoom webinar. Make it feel like a Netflix production, right? Third thing I would say is get somebody who understands how to interact with the digital audience. I love interacting with the digital audience. I think it's one reason why I've been successful in being able to speak so much throughout this entire last 2 years or so about all this content is that I can read the chat while coming here. So for example, like I can call out the fact that Peter's saying, hey, you're trying to reach me. Peter, I'm always trying to reach you. I literally just called you, I think. Check your phone. But I'm the kind of one of those engaging presenters who's able to take a comment that comes in within a second and incorporate it into my talk. And it makes it engaging. Because now Peter's paying attention because I called him out by name. Literally within seconds of him asking that question on there. So I think that's the fourth piece is that you need to be able to have that bridge between the two audiences as well. That's 4 tips at least to get you started. But, if you need additional ones, ask me some more questions and I can definitely dive deeper into this as well. What's funny is that McKenna kind of asked very similar questions as well. Tips on creating engagement for the virtual attendees in the in-person. I'll bridge on this a little bit more since we're going beyond just talking about a live stream that's being put on YouTube or on a page that, people might disengage. So let's talk about like full blown. We have a platform. People can navigate to different breakout sessions going on virtually. People in person can do the same thing, right? Let's talk about what that kind of looks like. So my first tip when it comes to hybrid in-person elements, you need to be able to allow the attendees to meet each other. Full stop. I think that if you're just going to have it where people are just absorbing content virtually, but they don't get to do any of the networking and things like that to meet the virtual attendee, it's not a hybrid event. It's 2 different events happening simultaneously. So to create a hybrid event, you need to be able to have the attendees mix amongst each other. So you start by doing this one single platform. So if you missed that part, I ranted on about that for probably a good 5 minutes or so. Feel free to go back to the beginning of the stream if you want to, but have one single platform. It's less work that you have to develop it in, but also, two, you have the opportunity for attendees to meet each other. So here's a tip that I would have for you. This is one of my favorite ideas. This is the one idea I'll share for free today. Is that create this platform where, and you can see who the in-person and virtual attendees are, right? And Isaac and Kyle know all about this because we talk about how we accomplish this all the time. Is that allow the attendees to schedule meetings. So, for example, McKenna, let's say I'm a virtual attendee right now because I'm at home, but you're in the convention center right now at the actual conference, right? But I see, hey, oh my gosh, I got to meet McKenna. She's a pro at video. She is a badass. I've been meaning to meet her. Everything that she's doing over there is killer. I've been wanting to meet her. So I send you a meeting request or a message or whatever it is on the platform. You message back and say, yeah, I'd love to meet you, Will. Let's totally do it. And then you schedule a meeting for like an hour from now. It's after the general session's done and everything like that. And we set up a meeting, right? General session gets done and you get out and you go, oh, I have my meeting with Will in 15 minutes. I'm going to have to talk to him, right? Well, hybrid like 1.5 is like, kind of what we're moving into now. But there is a future that I can talk about hybrid 2.0. Ask me in the chat if you want me to talk about hybrid 2.0. But hybrid 1.5 would be you get a meeting request, and I'm sitting at home. I go, oh, yeah, I have a meeting with McKenna. I'm already at my computer. I'm ready to go with this meeting. But you get out of the general session and go, well, it's loud. There's a lot of people here. I obviously can't go in the general session because there's, it's loud music playing. I got to find a quiet place to do this call because we all do calls in quiet places. So you go searching to go find a quiet place for us to do the meeting. And what's going to end up happening, though, is that you might get lucky that you walk around the corner and it's quiet enough for you to do it on your phone, but that's kind of like awkward. You don't want to just have a video call in the middle by yourself in the middle here. You're probably going to be like, let me go find a couch, go set up my laptop, get connected to Wi-Fi and everything like that. Well, the problem with this is that now you're no longer part of the in-person event. You're kind of like disconnecting from it. What's worse is that you decide that you say, I want to ultimately go to the quietest place, which is back to my hotel room, right? There's Wi-Fi there, there's outlets, and, it'd just be nice to sit down at my desk, there's a lot of people around here. I don't want anyone interrupting me for this call with Will. So you go back to your hotel room. Now you're definitely disconnected from the event. You're just basically doing a video call from your hotel room that just happens to be while you're at this event. What I think would be awesome when it comes to tips for engagement is that you got to keep your attendees in the event all the time. And so then that way, when you get done with that call, you don't click end call with Will, and then you go, oh, well, I'm in my hotel room. Let me just answer a couple emails and things like that, right? I'm totally guilty of this. I've had to do this so many times when I was remote. I'd be like, I got to do a sales call now. Let me walk away from this. Let me go back to my hotel room. And you just end up answering emails before you know it, you missed the whole conference because you've been in your hotel room the entire time. So what we need to do is keep our attendees around the event. So for years, I've been preaching this idea that we need to have co-working spaces at events. That's probably the first tip, is that for now on, now that all these employees are remote, people are going to need the ability to step out of the conference for a quick second to answer a couple emails, to do a quick video call, and everything like that. And they can't fully disconnect because they're so used to being remote. So build a co-working space in the middle of your exhibit hall. So then they're around exhibitors, right? It's quiet enough because everyone needs to have conversations in the exhibit hall anyways. And allow there to be fast Wi-Fi, Ethernet port for wired computers, outlets galore, tables, standing desks, couches. People can work, co-working space right within it. Now they haven't left the event. They can take the call from there. But here's the next level of what we're doing at Endless. And I love this idea. I'm so jazzed about this. Is that imagine instead you get the call and you say, I have a call with Will in 15 minutes. Go, okay. Oh, it says it's in pod A. Oh, hey, the pods are right over here. You pull up to the pod and it says, meeting with Will in 5 minutes. McKenna and Will are meeting, right? You open up the door, you sit down, and boom, my face comes up on the screen. You don't have to dial on your phone or your computer, log in the platform or anything like that. Boom, I come up and we get to have a call. Wouldn't that be great? Right? Call gets done. Boom, I come off. I walk out, and another person's meeting is right after yours. It would recreate that feeling that we have when we attend a conference and we schedule a meeting in one-to-one. And McKenna and I go, oh, yeah, let's just meet at the Starbucks around the corner. It's that same idea. You give a dedicated space for them to happen. And the best platforms and technologies will allow that to happen. For you to have a seamless experience where you don't have to necessarily lean on your phone or your laptop to do all the networking between virtual and in-person attendees as well. So that's one idea that I definitely have when it comes to this sort of stuff. So thank you, Isaac. Isaac, you helped make that happen. Also, Kyle, you guys are the ones who make it happen. Everybody from Endless, you have my crazy ideas as well. So, and I appreciate it. Thank you, McKenna, so much. Yeah, there's a bunch of other ideas I have. So I'll give one last idea for engagement, and I see a couple other questions kind of coming on down. So that's one idea for how you can incorporate your in-person and virtual attendees as well when it comes to engagement. So let's talk about the next thing that you can do when it comes to engaging your in-person virtual audiences, right? And that has to do with the feeling that you're there as a virtual attendee, and also the recognition from the in-person attendees that there's a virtual audience as well. So we talk about tips, like for example, for presenters, the idea of doing like tally lights on all the cameras. So you're constantly making eye contact with the camera that is currently streaming. Also, acknowledging the audience is even there, right? Smart stuff like that. But let's talk about next level. So this is where you start to incorporate production technologies. Like, for example, what if you could make it where the presenter saw the faces of all the virtual attendees? They can see if they're yawning. I mean, I would love to see if you guys are yawning right now, or you're tired, or you're having your mojito on a Friday night, whatever it may be, right? You have this option to be able to do this sort of thing. But as a presenter, I can see that. But also as well, put some screens on the outside. Maybe it doesn't have to be in the camera shot, but put some screens on the outside that allow your in-person attendees to see the virtual attendees, almost like they're already there, right? We're not talking about like next level holograms. No, we're talking about simply, you can do this easily. One way is just create a giant Zoom room and put everybody in the Zoom room, and then put up the Zoom room on a screen on either side of it, right? But yeah, it kind of looks ugly, looks like a Zoom room and things like that. We have some technologies in place that allow us to be able to present attendees up on screen as well, and integrate it within your existing platforms as well. So think about that when it comes to the one way that you can engage your attendees as well. But also too, when it comes to your video production, Ken, I know you like this one, especially because you're such an awesome video person, is that you gotta, when you're doing your general sessions, your breakout rooms, the 2-camera setup doesn't work anymore. Doing a wide shot of the presenter that easily tracks and then a close-up and cutting between the two, that's boring. No one wants to watch it anymore, right? Think about like producing a video like TED. TED has requirements. I think it's 5 minimum cameras you have in order to do a TED conference. Why do they do this? Because they want a wide shot head to toe. They want an upper body shot. They want shots of the crowd. All these things like that. You got to do 3, 4, 5 cameras when it comes to your streaming, because you need the ability to cut to all these different shots to keep it engaging. Think about a sporting event, right? They don't just have like 2 cameras they constantly cut between. They're constantly cutting between so many shots to keep it engaging, right? ADD going all crazy. So that's one thing to think about. But one simple camera that can make a huge amount of engagement to help the virtual audience feel a little bit closer is shooting video of the audience's reactions. If you get a big laugh, cut to the audience. Have 2 different cameras so you can go not only to the first person laughing, then you can cut to the second person laughing, then you can cut back to the speaker. That's going to create a huge amount of engagement for the virtual audience to feel like they are a little bit closer to it. But also as well, we talk about not trying to cannibalize your own audiences. Wouldn't you love if your virtual attendees eventually became in-person attendees? Well, if they can see the in-person attendees, they're going to start to feel like they're a part of it as well. So, thank you so much. I love the 100 emoji. Phil, great to see you as well. Thank you so much for being here. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad to have you here as well. All right, so let's go into next question. So Dylan asks, how do you see hybrid events in entertainment and sports evolving? I mean, man, they had to evolve so much. I've been watching the NBA Finals. Go Suns! Yay, Arizona! We eventually are good at one sport. So I've been really interestingly watching how they've been all doing everything. And what's been really interesting is that they haven't had to evolve a ton because they're already so engaging across the board. I think events have a lot to learn from sporting events and news broadcasts, whereas like news and sports have been doing this for so long. So one of the things I think that could make sports and entertainment evolve is making the attendee that's virtual come in a little closer. And this is scary for a lot of TV broadcasts, right? Can you imagine like taking a random person from the internet and putting them on a screen that gets to broadcast out to millions of people? But if they can figure out some sort of system that allows, for example, the kind of radio call-in experience that you get in a lot of ways, like think about how many of you grew up used to call the radio station just so you could hear yourself on the radio, right? That 15 seconds of fame is so powerful, but it makes people feel really connected to the talent that's on screen, right? That's why, you can feel like you have a close relationship with your radio broadcast host, But, Charles Barkley on ESPN talking about the Suns, you feel so far away from him unless they do something. What's kind of happened in a small way of this is that they do things like they're constantly reading tweets and bringing tweets up, right? But what if we could do that with video? As video becomes a bigger part of things, being able to see faces, being able to see the diverse audience that's out there, sports and entertainment have this option to be able to bring people up on screen and to feel part of it. I think you got to figure out the filtering aspect of it. Almost kind of the same way we used to do a lot of Comic-Cons as we grew our company. And they would always do it where, like, you have some Comic-Cons where, like, we'll just put a mic up and hope to God they don't ask Stan Lee an offensive question. But then you'd have other conferences where they did Q&A. They'd be like, all right, what's your question? They'd hear the person's question and be like, okay, you can go ahead and ask the question. You're next on here. But if you can figure out that sort of element, I think that's huge. But allowing that virtual attendee to directly interact with the talent and the sports and the celebrities, oh my God, so huge. It's why when you look at these Comic-Cons, there's gigantic lines just to ask a question in front of thousands of people to Stan Lee, to Chris Pratt and everything like that. People love that element because they feel like they get to talk to the celebrity and the entertainers out there, which is really, really cool. And then I think the other thing when it comes to hybrid and entertainment sports is that I think that their trends of what they do are going to evolve the events industry. So I know that's not necessarily how entertainment sports are going to evolve, but I think sports and entertainment are going to evolve the events industry back at us, which is pretty cool. The events industry, if you guys haven't ever known, it's very reactive. It's very like, we'll implement this once someone else does it, right? For example, like hologram technology has existed at Disneyland for like so long. And obviously Disneyland can be considered, I guess, like an event kind of esque thing. But, when Tupac did the hologram at Coachella, right? That wasn't like an insanely new technology. Go to like the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. They're like been doing that since like the 60s, right? So something to kind of just keep in mind is the events industry very much is reactive. But that's why I almost kind of love it, because I'm like bleeding edge on everything else, right? Like if I could have a robot butler in my house right now, I'd totally have it. But it's not going to come to the events industry until probably 10 years later as well. So something to just kind of keep in mind as you look at it. And Dylan, thank you so much. I'm glad you agree as well. Jose saying yes on cameras. Need all the cameras in the world for sure. By the way, again, I'm answering your questions. Anything about hybrid events, in-person events? By the way, I don't know if you know this, but did you know that Endless does hybrid and in-person events? I saw a message today. It said one of our clients said, "Oh yeah, you guys only do virtual events now." Go, no, we've been doing hybrid events for the last like decade. So come hit us up, but ask us questions right now. Ask me questions, I guess. Maybe I can bring another person up from the team. Let me check Slack and see if anyone's like, "Oh, I really want to get up with you as well." But yeah, hit us up with your questions and your hellos in the comments. Love to hear from you as well. And yeah, Dylan says, entertainment usually leads the way in innovation over conferences, corporations. 100%, right? That's why I love watching what Disney does, because they're really bleeding edge, and then you can take that and evolve that. I've always been a big fan of looking outward when it comes to inspiration when it comes to these things, right? Rather than inward, 100%. So, for example, like that booth idea technology, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, Project Starline, I'm pretty sure it's what's called, Starline by Google, is this idea of creating a video chat that feels so real. If you watch the video of it that they did at Google I/O, people are like, I felt like they're across the table from us. That technology is going to come to the events industry really, really soon. And then all we have to do is integrate our existing apps and technologies into it, which will be really cool. All right. Another question from McKenna. McKenna's getting like all the star attention, but you got a lot of questions in really quick. How would you set up breakup sessions for the virtual attendees? For example, virtual will be sent to a breakout room via Zoom, and we've noticed in the past they kind of just sit there and people don't talk to each other. Yeah, I think honestly, when it comes to Zoom, it's awkward, right? So I obviously don't know what the setup of the technology is, but I wouldn't use Zoom for your breakout rooms on there. One important thing is that when you bring a lot of random strangers online to talk to each other, they usually just sit there quietly until someone is like your kind of proponent. So I think one of the things that can help this is that you need to get like, you need a moderator who's going to moderate the whole conversation, but you need like cheerleaders in every aspect of your entire event. It's the same way that like when people walk into, the house party, you need that person who recognizes them and comes and gives them a hug and is like, oh, let me show you around and all these things like that. The host who takes you around, whatever it is, who makes you feel more comfortable. You need a cheerleader in your event, and to design it that way. So then that way you have the hype people. So for example, in the breakout room, you need someone who maybe they're not thought expert in this, but someone who's just courageous enough to ask the question and who can go, oh yeah, hey McKenna, what do you think about this? And kind of, you've been just sitting there quietly the whole time, and you're just like, well, I guess I'll answer this because I'm directly being asked this, right? You start talking, and then everyone starts seeing everybody talking a little bit more and gets a little bit more comfortable with it. So cheerleaders can help a ton with that. How do you solve this with a technology standpoint is that I think that Zoom can also be really, really awkward to do this because people, especially if you're putting them in Zoom rooms versus Zoom webinars, they don't quite always know what is the rules of engagement for unmuting and talking to each other, right? Because they're going to sit here and be like, okay, if, for example, if your breakout room, and maybe clarify too, if it depends on the content, right? So I'm thinking there's a couple different types of breakout. There's kind of like the one-to-many, which this could be kind of like a breakout room, right? I'm talking and answering questions and engaging. There's kind of there's the group discussion, which there's no speaker or maybe a quick speaker, and then let's facilitate into little breakout groups to kind of talk amongst each other. And then I think there's obviously a bunch of different there's more creative types of breakout rooms and, unconference and things like that when it comes to the design. But, if you're doing one-to-many, sort of presentations, more like a general session style presentation inside of a breakout room, it's really hard, I think, sometimes to get people to unmute because they might be just expecting just to be talked to. But again, cheerleaders in the chat, cheerleaders in the Q&A can help a ton with that. If you're looking to do that facilitated conversation, amazing moderators helps a ton with this sort of stuff. Hiring a team of moderators who can help a bunch. I think also, again, adding the cheerleaders. But then I think the other thing too is that making it really, really structured in the beginning to keep it flowing and keep the energy up, and then letting it be loose, right? Kind of like at the beginning of this, I started by just repeatedly asking, do you have questions? Hey, giving shout outs. But now it's a little bit more loose. I can kind of like bring questions up as I kind of see them coming in. And being a little bit more loose with it once the engagement kind of starts flowing. So I think when it comes to breakouts as well, another thing that you can kind of do to facilitate additional conversations, I think that what you can do, I had a thought and now it's fleeting me. This is how I can tell it's 3:21 on a Friday afternoon. I think one of the things that you can do to increase engagement across breakout rooms, moderators, cheerleaders, and also giving more structure is that keeping energy really, really high constantly. So this is where production value comes in tremendously for events. We always talk about this idea of not having dead air, right? For example, if you have a bunch of speakers jumping in between different pieces of content, you can't expect it just to go to a logo and music plays out. Instead, what you should do is cut to, for example, if you're designing your live stream experience, cut to a studio on site at your event. That then you can interview the keynote that was just on stage, but backstage, exclusive content just for the virtual audience on here. One thing you can do too, make it really VIP, is that sell VIP tickets that have access to the studio who can sit 5 feet away from that giant keynote that you just brought in, right? So I think one of the big things though is keeping energy really, really high. So I think breakout rooms in general, this is just in-person, hybrid, virtual, are awkward. Have you ever been where you walked into a breakout room and it's just kind of quiet? You don't know if you're in the right room because you've never met the speaker before. You just know what the topic is. Maybe you got lucky and you have a sign outside that tells you're in the right place, but you kind of like quietly get in, you sit in your seat, you first bust out your phone and you're like, must keep brain working. Don't want to seem bored. But I think one of the best things that I love to do when I'm designing breakout rooms, have music playing. People walk into the breakout room, even if they come an hour early, have music playing. So they come in, they have something to kind of listen to. Maybe, for example, having a prompt on screen. This is something like, here's a poll. What's your favorite chicken noodle soup? That was a really random one today. Putting a random question that's super easy to answer gets people engaged and starts using the engagement tools as well. And this is one thing that I do when I design content, is that I want to make it so people come in, they start engaging right away. There's no break in the energy at all. And it gets people familiar with the tools they're going to use. Again, we talked about the platforms, is that it's so easy if you're an in-person attendee or you're a virtual attendee, just to be like, I'm going to full screen the content, who cares about the engagement? But if I come out of the gate really fast and I say, hey, what's your favorite color? So real quick, by the way, in the comments, post your favorite color in the comments real quick just so I can see it. But I like to ask really easy questions that aren't related to even the topic I'm doing, that makes people excited and gives them something to talk to. Please don't ask everybody where they're tuning in from. I hate that question. Please don't ever ask that question ever again. But ask something really, really easy and fun, and it gives a chance for you to give shout outs to the attendees and for them to engage. Now you've gotten them really quick using the tool. Ask another question. Get them engaged using the tools right away as soon as possible. So you got music, you got them engaging on there. Ellis says indigo. I'm also learning how slow the delay is on here as well. Sherry says pink. Sherry, thank you so much for being here. Kenna green. I love green. Fun fact, by the way, everyone thinks lime green is my favorite color. Can you guess what my favorite color is in the chats? We'll see if anyone can come up with it. So, so when it comes to it, again, asking that super duper easy question gets people engaged and using the tool right away. Now, next thing that you want to do when it comes to the breakout rooms as well is that you want to make sure the content's good. Content is king, right? Think about it. And a lot of people ask, like, when do you decide when something's on-demand content versus what's going to be live content? If something's not going to be engaging, the presenter's not going to be looking at the chat. I'm guessing, Jose, you're saying that's your favorite color. He says it's blue. But blue is not my favorite color. White is not my favorite color. Ellis, not close at all, actually. But when it comes to someone who's going to be engaging with the tools, right? When I'm designing my content, I want speakers who are live, who are going to be live speakers, right? And this is sometimes hard, right? Sometimes you need to have a presenter speak to do live because they fulfill a sponsorship obligation. They are a donor of the event, whatever it may be. But work really closely, and this is why you're having a content manager for your event who can work with your speakers, who can identify those who are going to be meh, and you can get them more in on-demand content. Or you can say, well, I'm not going to have them at my event at all, right? That's going to be really, really important when it comes to it. So far, no correct answers on what is my favorite color. Oh, yes. Oh, so Sherry says orange, not orange. Ellis gets it. Ellis is like one of my direct reports, so like Ellis works with me, so he should know everything about me, right? But red. Was that a guess, Ellis? Have I ever told you that? Red. Red is my favorite color, yes. If you ever seen my car, it's red. All right. So how do we continue to make it so attendees talk to each other? So such like I could probably talk about this for an hour. The next thing I would do as well is allow attendees to learn about who's there as well. I think sometimes Zoom is tough. I always get kind of sad when I see people join events or webinars and they, their account says like default account or it says the name of their company. Like for example, we have a Slack community for events, by the way. If you didn't know about our Slack community, I'll put a link to it in the chat right now so everyone can know. Feel free to come and join. Post this across all of them. But yeah, if you go to slackforevents.com, I once had a couple people that come in and they post and they're like, their title, their Slack person is like the name of their company and their logo. And I'm like, you don't join communities as a company. There's people behind here. If you want to have multiple people from a company, cool. But people don't connect with companies. They connect with the people at those companies, right? And so when it comes to breakout rooms, make it engaging by people being able to see who's at those. So that's as simple as their video being on, obviously, right? Would be really helpful. But making sure their name is correctly under. But again, this is why I say not doing it in Zoom is smart, is that do it in your platform where they can click on the person's name, bring up their profile, see what's their favorite animal and all these fun things and things like that. And they get to connect with those attendees. But also, too, if I'm in a breakout room and, McKenna says a really, really good comment, I want to be able to be like, man, I need to talk to you about this a little bit more. But on Zoom, I have to know what your name is, maybe go on LinkedIn. Oh, now I'm off the platform. It's the equivalent of going back to your hotel room, right? I'm leaving the event. But I would love to click on your platform, send you a connection request, send you a message right then and there, and keep it all within there. But what's also really, really important about this, and let's talk about ROI of events, is that you need to keep this on your platform because you want to track this stuff, right? And I'm not talking about in the creepy like Facebook way of tracking things, but just the simple aspect of that. If I found out that a sponsor, for example, held a breakout room about trees in Ireland, and McKenna, you're there, and I apologize to keep using as an example, and I see that you're there, and you connect with the speaker there and have a meeting with them, I can then go back to the sponsor and be like, hey, by the way, you had that breakout room all about trees in Ireland. McKenna connected with you. How was that conversation? Or you had 25 connection requests right after your talk because of that. Look, that was really successful. Versus if you don't track anything, that's all in Zoom, right? You're asking questions like, so how was the sponsorship for you? Or how, was the talk successful? Or worse is that you just never end up talking about it. You hope to God they come back, right? But we know as smart marketers that we want to track everything, and we want to know what the attribution is and where it came from. So we want to do that 100%. And again, go back to the one platform conversation of hybrid events, is that when you do it on one platform, it's one consistent loop of analytics. Now let's talk about exciting things for the future. Imagine you use that platform over a couple of years. I can't promise that the best platform today is going to be the same best platform later. My hope is maybe you can take this data and correlate it over time. But imagine having all that data in one single platform where you could see how the attendee attended first as a virtual attendee and was really quiet the first year. Came to the second one, connected with more people, and then, oh my gosh, I love this experience, comes in person. You tracked everything they did on there, and you see this evolution of the life cycle of your attendee. That's one reason I love HubSpot. You can literally see like the attendee. You can see every little page they look at, what they're trying to do, their life cycle. And, when it comes to event organizers, we've always looked at our attendees as these pools of people. Oh yeah, look at them. It's busy in this line for food. But what if instead we could look at it and be like, look at this one attendee. They went to all the sessions. They connected with the most amount of people. I see how many people they connected. They had so many messages. That's a super fan right there. I want to talk to them. I want to make them our biggest advocate. We don't do that at events. We sometimes do soft leave in-person events before data existed, because we would just be like, oh, that person, they're always in the front row. I've seen them year after year after year. But now we have data to be able to collect on them and to be able to know what they're trying to do. And again, that one single platform allows you to keep all that data in one single place as well. And who knows, I've also heard of a lot of attendees now. It's been really cool watching the evolution of this and watching how, my team's attending events now, how I'm trying to attend events now. But you hear people say things like, yeah, I'm only going to go for the in-person element for one day, but I'll attend to the content and the general sessions virtually for the first 2 days. Well, if you don't have two platforms, they look like two different attendees. Or if you don't have one platform, they look like two different attendees. But in reality, what if you could see that life cycle journey, that what the sessions they looked at virtually and what they looked at in person as well? All right, keep the questions coming, guys. Oh my gosh, what questions do you have about hybrid and in-person events? I try to drink on my water bottle with the cap on. This is just one of those days. Love to hear from you all. Post it in there. Usually when I get towards the end of these live streams, it's usually right around now, like 46 minutes in or so, I probably have answered every single one of your questions you have right now, or I've completely talked way too fast and burnt you out completely. Either way, I'll definitely be doing more of these. I think I'm going to be trying to kick up and do these more regularly. I'm a big fan of a person named Pat Flynn. I haven't been watching his stuff recently, but I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, he did a live stream every single day. And I remember halfway through, I was like, man, I really want to do that. And then before I knew it, 6 months passed and I never ended up doing it. But I really admire the idea of having an audience that you can connect with consistently across the board. And, as I've started to be more of a CEO role within the company, I've had to kind of a little bit disconnect from our customers and our audience and things like that. So finding more ways to hear from you all, give you guys all content beyond just standing in front of a camera and video set. Well, sounds like you all are very tired. Shout outs to everybody who tried to guess my favorite color in the chat. You are awesome. Thank you, every single one of you. Let's see if I can give shout outs to everybody who's left a comment. Isaac, thank you so much for coming. Mark, Gil, Ellis, of course, Jackie, Kyle, thank you so much. McKenna, all your awesome questions. Dylan, thank you so much for coming as well. Peter, thanks for stopping by. Jose, for talking about trucks as well. I think our Jose is here too. Jose as well, coming here. Sherry, so great. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You all are so fantastic. All right, I'm going to tune out of here. It's Friday afternoon, evening for some of you. I hope you have an amazing weekend. If you have any questions about hybrid or in-person events, don't hesitate to ask. Ask them in the comments. I'll be looking at comments afterwards as well. And make some noise in the chat if you really enjoyed this live stream. If you're watching the post-recording of this and getting to the end, let me know that you'd like me to do more of these, or maybe a time that isn't Friday afternoon you'd like me to do these things. Happy to do it. But maybe we'll get to the whiteboard next time. Maybe. But thank you all so much, Jose, Sherry, Ellis, McKenna, Jose, Dylan, Mark, everybody for joining on in, and everybody else who hasn't been commenting. You rock. Have an awesome weekend. I'm going to get out of here and go work on some hybrid and in-person events. I'll see you all soon.